3:07 a.m. A deafening explosion shatters the eardrums. The first Shahed drone plunges into the corner of the deck, locking onto the command center. Alarm sirens wail, time remaining 3 seconds. Next come the second, the third. 127 of Iran's mad bees are swarming in from all directions, locking onto the USS Tripoli's 30 seconds. That was the line between a mighty fleet and a $3.4 billion disaster sinking to the ocean floor. A single impact would send 300 million gallons of fuel exploding, triggering the collapse of the global economy right here at this critical juncture. With the Air Force powerless, 2,200 Marines are the only hammer capable of uprooting the threat from its lair. Will this be an impossible turnaround, or will Hormuz become the grave that buries America's pride? 3:48 a.m. Smoke from the first Shahed impact chokes the Tripoli's flight deck as the ship's phalanx CIWS screams to life, spitting a leaden wall to intercept the next wave. This isn't just a skirmish, it's a saturation strike designed to blind the world's most advanced Aegis sensors. Far to the west, the USS Abraham Lincoln and Gerald R. Ford execute tactical repositioning, carving white wakes as they turn toward the Iranian coast. Pentagon greenlights the surgical hammer protocol. The Tripoli ARG pushes deep into the inner corridor of the Hormuz choke point. Inside the vibrating hull, 2,200 Marines lock into tactical harnesses, their eyes fixed on the mission. In the hangar decks, MV-22 Osprey rotors tilt for immediate takeoff as turboshaft engines scream, vibrating through the steel floors. They aren't waiting for the fire to go out, they are the counterstrike. 3:56 a.m. Two Arleigh Burke, Flight 3 destroyers slide into firing sectors after 14 days of maximum speed transit. Iran gambled on a 2-week logistics window for U.S. reinforcements, a fatal strategic miscalculation. The Tripoli is already in range, its sensors locked onto the enemy's heart. By 3:59 a.m., the fleet is no longer just defending, it is ready to erase the threat from the map. The flight deck of the USS Tripoli shuddered violently under 1,000-degree heat as the first F-35Bs engaged short takeoff mode. The roar of the Rolls-Royce engines propelled these stealthy ghosts into the air in under 500 feet. Immediately upon clearing the deck, the F-35B squadron established the multifunction advanced data link, turning each fighter into a node in a massive sensor network. High-power active electronically scanned array radar swept the airspace for 200 nautical miles, piercing through fog and decoys. Each Iranian Shahed drone appeared on tactical displays as a solitary thermal signature. Rather than wasting million-dollar air-to-air missiles, Marine pilots activated the APKWS, converting low-cost 70mm Hydra rockets into precision laser-guided weapons. Streaks of APKWS fire tore through the sky, systematically harvesting enemy drone formations with brutal cost efficiency. Below the flight deck, the coordination was absolute. Marine teams deployed handheld laser designators, death-marking drones attempting to slip through at low altitudes. Heavy .050 caliber machine guns and 25mm cannons on deck opened fire, creating a wall of molten steel to shred targets closing in on the Tripoli's hull. Within the first 90 seconds of the engagement, 87% of Iran's Mad Hornet swarm was wiped from the radar, turning into fireballs plunging into the sea. A technical crisis erupted. Iran initiated wide-scale GPS spoofing, causing traditional sensors to flicker with error messages. On the pilots' HUDs, several zombie drones suddenly veered into erratic trajectories, diving straight for the Tripoli's command bridge from lethal attack angles. Responding without a second of delay, F-35B pilots switched to AIM-120 AMRAAM, medium-range missiles utilizing active radar to lock and annihilate the final threats. Air dominance was immediately re-established. However, as the tactical displays reset, the electro-optical targeting system suddenly detected a far greater threat screaming toward them. 4:05 a.m. From the Iranian coast, Collar's anti-H-ship ballistic missiles scream into high orbit. Simultaneously, Fatah-1 hypersonic missiles skim the wavetops at Mach 5, executing erratic high-G maneuvers to negate intercept algorithms. Iran's GPS jamming hits maximum power,
causing tactical displays in F-35B cockpits and the Tripoli's Aegis center to flicker to black. Amidst the electronic chaos, sonar alarms wail. An Asdar suicide UUV from a Ghadir minisub has surfaced unexpectedly just 300 yards from the Tripoli's propellers with torpedoes locked on. A split-second tactical command echoes through the Marine pilot's headset. Decision height, commit NFCAR or engage subsurface, T-47 seconds. The Arleigh Burke Flight 3 destroyer, acting as the escort, immediately activates its Spy-6-1 radar and Aegis Baseline 10 system. From the VLS cells on the Burke, SM-6 missiles tear through the water's surface, screaming upward to intercept both the Collars FARS and the Fata-1 in mid-air simultaneously. The F-35B deploys a sonar buoy, streaming real-time target data to an MH-60R Seahawk, hovering over the flight deck. The Seahawk dives, dropping an Mk-54 torpedo that shreds the Asdar UUV seconds before it can impact the Tripoli's stern. The stakes were absolute. If the Burke missed the hypersonics, the flight deck would be incinerated. If the UUV was ignored, 840,000 gallons of fuel near the propellers would detonate, dragging the $3.4 billion fortress to the bottom. The massive ship shudders violently from the shock waves of near-miss detonations. For 6 agonizing seconds, Marines on deck stand frozen, believing this is the end. Iranian operators laugh maniacally over unsecured frequencies. The Americans are weak. They are in total panic. 4:15 a.m. The Iranian command center observes the flickering U.S. radar screens and the simulated delay in the Aegis response. Believing the American defenses have reached a saturation point, they order the elite Tactical Strike Group 2 to move in for the kill. A massive wave of fast attack missile boats splits into 3 separate prongs, weaving through the choppy water at 50 knots to stretch the Tripoli's defensive perimeter to its breaking point. Simultaneously, a second wave of upgraded Shahed drones dives from high altitude, intentionally entering the sensor gap created by the simulated system lag. On the Iranian radio frequencies, the order is clear. The Tripoli's flank is exposed. Strike now. A second Ghadir-class mini-marine, running silently near the seabed, begins its final approach, its sonar locking onto the massive hull of the assault ship from an optimal firing angle. 4:18 a.m. The Tripoli appears to struggle. The ship's defensive fire becomes sporadic, and the Aegis system seems to prioritize the wrong targets. Encouraged by this perceived weakness, Iran activates every shore-based sensor and guidance radar to lock their heavy anti-ship missiles. They believe they have found a window of opportunity that will change the course of the war. They are rushing their most elite units into the engagement zone, unaware of the trap. The ticking clock hits 30 seconds, then 20. The Iranian missile boats prepare to launch their terminal phase salvos. On the Tripoli, the atmosphere is tense but controlled. The Marines in the Combat Information Center watch as the Iranian units fully expose their positions by activating their active targeting radars. By trying to guarantee a hit, the IRGC has just signed the death warrant for their entire coastal defense network. 4:22 a.m. The electronic battlefield is a mess of signals and noise. Iranian commanders scream orders over the radio, believing the American fleet is panicking. They see the Tripoli's guns tracking wildly, seemingly unable to lock on to the fast-approaching boats. But in reality, the U.S. electronic warfare suite is mapping every single Iranian frequency, cataloging the exact coordinates of every launch site hidden along the jagged coastline. The Iranian saturation point is reached, or so they think. They launch everything, drones, missiles, and torpedoes, in a final coordinated strike. They believe the Tripoli will be a burning wreck in seconds. But as the Iranian sensors reach 100% power, they inadvertently provide the U.S. fleet with the perfect roadmap for a total counterstrike. The window of opportunity for Iran is about to slam shut with violent high-tech finality. The trap is sprung. Marine F-35B pilots switch from radar to the EOTS, their ultra-sensitive infrared eyes, bypassing the Iranian jamming entirely. They lock on to the thermal signatures of the Fata-1 missiles from dozens of miles away. Data is instantly fed to the USS Jack H.L. Lucas, which launches a second salvo of SM-6 missiles. One by one, the hypersonic threats vanish from the sky in a series of blinding atmospheric explosions. 4:28 a.m. The MH-60R Seahawk, guided by the F-35B's persistent tracking, drops its final Mk-54 torpedo. The second Ghadir submarine is shredded 300 feet from the Tripoli. Simultaneously, the SLQ-32 and ALQ-239 electronic suites on the Burke and F-35Bs initiate a massive counter-jamming strike. The Iranian jamming signals are overwhelmed and reversed, exposing the exact GPS coordinates of every shore-based launcher with terrifying clarity. 4:30 a.m. A second flight of F-35Bs launches from the Tripoli, carrying small-diameter bombs, SDB. They glide silently toward the coast, erasing the Iranian air defense nests in seconds. Immediately following the blasts, MV-22 Ospreys dive toward the IRGC coastal headquarters. 22